Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I would like to speak on New Clause 34, as raised by the Honourable Member for Mid Leicestershire, who rightly raises the issue of councillor standards and calls for regulations to establish a recall process for those councillors who have breached their codes of conduct. Although a poignant point, having served as a town councillor and deputy mayor myself before election to this House, I believe we must go further. I strongly support this bill's aim to standardise the structure of local government and particularly welcome the reform of our local audit system as outlined in these provisions. I also commend the government's recent announcement regarding new powers to suspend councillors for up to 6 months for serious misconduct and the introduction of a mandatory code of conduct across all types of local authorities in England. These are essential first steps that I wholeheartedly welcome and know from my experience are much needed. However, I urge us to go further by introducing a dedicated local council standards bill that addresses the full breadth of accountability challenges that residents face with town and parish councils or very local councils. The Localism Act 2011 created a legislative vacuum by abolishing the standards boards for England and repealing powers to suspend councillors who breach standards. As very local councils are to play an increasingly larger role in devolution of local services, it is essential that councils are held to the same high standards and that this critical issue receives the detailed parliamentary scrutiny it deserves. As one of my constituents and a former parish councillor put it, councillors have little incentive and no mandatory training requirements. Having witnessed firsthand these challenges in local and very local councils, I believe we must robustly tackle those who bring the reputations of councils into disrepute, undermining the already fragile trust in local politics and doing profound disservice to the overwhelming majority of councillors who serve their communities with integrity and dedication. The ongoing recruitment crisis for both town and parish clerks and potential councillors is directly linked to the lack of effective recourse against unacceptable behaviour. There are councils that have gained a local and in some cases national reputation for dysfunction. The result? Some councils are resorting to offering wildly increased salaries representing what amounts to, for staff, danger money, for having to deal with toxic behaviours. Experienced, qualified clerks who serve as impartial legal advisers tasked with ensuring councils operate lawfully are subjected to behaviour that would not be tolerated in any professional environment. The loss of these valuable professionals weakens governance and standards across the entire sector. It is to that end that I propose we should go on to create a dedicated local standards bill that establishes a comprehensive framework for local council accountability. This should include professional regulation for councillors with robust oversight mechanisms beyond the mandatory code of conduct. It should establish a properly funded model for monitoring officers through professional regulation fees paid by councils, similar to the current mandatory external audit fees, ensuring these vital guardians of standards have the capacity to perform their function effectively and consistently across all local authorities. A compliance scoring system would provide transparent indicators to the public about whether their elected representatives are undertaking best practice and demonstrating financial competence with taxpayers' money. National internal audit parameters, building on the audit reforms outlined in this bill, would ensure transparency and consistency of government standards across all very local councils, regardless of their size or location. Additionally, the annual governance and accountability statement should include a proper officer declaration, confirming where councils have chosen to ignore or disregard professional legal advice, particularly where this represents a breach of their legal obligations. Such accountability, made visible and measurable, would help to restore public confidence in local governance. While the announced reforms begin to address this issue, the complexity and importance of comprehensive rebuilding the standards infrastructure merits dedicated legislation. We cannot allow the minority who tarnish the reputation of the sector to continue creating disparity in community benefit or to drive experienced professionals from their roles. I wish to emphasise that there are very many local councils across the country and in North Somerset that are governed extremely well and genuinely enrich their communities. But as we move forward with devolution, we must ensure that town and parish councils are functioning effectively, operating in line with legislation, delivering value for money for their residents and taking heed of legal advice given to them by their proper officers. Madam Deputy Speaker, we have the opportunity to rebuild trust in local and very local politics, ensuring impeccable standards and levels of accountability. I would welcome the opportunity to work with the government on developing such legislation so that the standards in our very local council mean a better deal for residents.